This is the Content Marketing Podcast, episode number 208. Will Blunt of Blogger Sidekick joins us to talk about linking content marketing to real business goals. Hello and welcome to the Content Marketing Podcast. This is the show where we hope you grow your tribe and your bottom line through insanely good content. I'm your host, Rachel Parker of Resonance Content Marketing, and today is January 5th, 2017. Hello, or as we say in Texas, howdy, and thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. Just a reminder, this podcast is available on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and now Google Play Music, so if you like what you hear, please feel free to click on over and subscribe. Also, my latest book, The Content Marketing Coach, Everything You Need to Get in the Game and Win, is now available on Amazon in book and Kindle format. And here's what New York Times bestselling author Jay Bear had to say about the Content Marketing Coach. He said, practical, accurate content marketing advice from a real pro, plus a football theme? I love this book. To learn more about the book and to download a free chapter, go to contentmarketingcoachbook.com. Well, happy New Year. It is 2017. We made it to another year. I was about to say unless you're a celebrity, but that would be in poor taste. Anyway, happy 2017. I must admit, I love the Christmas season. I love it from so many standpoints, but I am so happy to get back to my routine. And I'm just happy to, I sent the hubby out to work and I've got my, sitting down, recording my podcast, getting my work done, and I'm a creature of habit. So it is great to be back in the routine. Okay, in last week's episode, we bade farewell to 2016 with some insights on how key developments over the course of the last year rocked our content marketing world. If you happen to miss that episode, feel free to check it out on iTunes or Stitcher or via the RSS feed. Today we're kicking off the new year with a special guest. Will Blunt of Blogger Sidekick will join us to talk about how to link our content marketing to high-level business objectives. But first, it's time to check in with our news feed for this week's rundown of news you can use. Some news from Periscope kicks off the news feed. They have announced a new live video experience that enables users to change their view by moving the device or tapping around the screen, also known as Live 360 Video. Now, currently, it is being rolled out gradually. Currently, all users can watch and engage with these Live 360 videos, but from a creation standpoint, it's only currently available to a select group of partners. So you may have seen these come up in your Twitter feed. The video pops up and it's marked it's got a mark on it that says it's a Live 360, and you can actually tap on the video and scroll around to see different perspectives. Very, very cool. Twitter expects the new feature to roll out the ability to create these videos, that is, to roll out to all users within a few weeks. And if you'd like to be notified when it does become available, you can sign up for a waiting list. And I will provide that link in the blog post for this episode. Okay, some news out of Snapchat. Now, if you did a lot of Snapchatting over the holidays like I did, you may have noticed a different kind of option in the filters. You may have noticed a game. During the holidays, there was a game called Santa's Helper, and what you did is if you selected this filter, it pastes your face on a figure. I think it's a little elf, and you actually go skiing down a mountain and and you move your phone around to avoid obstacles. It's like a little mini video game, and you can complete the game and then send that as a snap, and then you can compete with your friends and have lots of fun. So apparently this native games is a trend that we're going to be seeing a lot of in Snapchat in the near future. TechCrunch reports that, quote, new selfie lens filter games are starting to appear to users, creating an addicting new Snapchat feature that also inspires competition between friends and could become a powerful ad revenue driver. So something to look for from Snapchat. Okay, our content hit of the week is a post on Social Media Examiner. It's called LinkedIn Changes, What Marketers Need to Know, and the author is Vivica von Rosen. You may have heard that LinkedIn has some big changes planned for its user interface, and those changes are very slowly starting to roll out. So in this post, Vivica takes us on a guided tour of the new LinkedIn interface and shows you where to find the features that you need. So even if you have not gotten the new LinkedIn experience yet, I have not. Mine still looks the same, but like I said, they're rolling it out gradually. It's good to get familiar with what these changes are going to look like and how we're going to go about finding the things that we need when that new experience rolls out to all users. Very good information, and I will add the link to the blog post for this episode. Okay, that's it for this week's update. If you stumble across something you think might be of interest to your fellow content marketers, please tweet it to me at Rach Parker so that we can share. Now it's time for this week's Spotlight segment. Will Blunt of Blogger Sidekick joins us to talk about linking content marketing to business goals. Will Blunt is the founder of Blogger Sidekick, a company that helps digital marketers build authority with one-of-a-kind content. He is the creator of the SEO Spider's Web, a unique interpretation of the content strategy used by some of the world's savviest online marketers, and is privileged to be the content editor for several leading digital marketing publications, including jeffbullis.com. Will has also had his content featured on the Huffington Post, HubSpot, Marketing Profs, QuickSprout, among other sources. So without further ado, here is my interview with Will Blunt of Blogger Sidekick to talk about linking content marketing to high-level business goals. Hey, Will, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
Sure, my pleasure. Well, I just gave our listeners your official bio, but can you give us a little bit of a more personal introduction to who you are and what you do?
Sure. So, I'm Australian, if you couldn't already guess from my accent, but I've lived in Sydney, Australia, my whole life, and depending on where most of your listeners are, I'm sure we're experiencing some different weather at the moment. It's meant to be 38 degrees today, which is about 100 Fahrenheit. So, preparing to hit the water, I think, at some stage today and cool down. But I've been doing, I guess, content marketing officially for about 5 years. But really, it's been something I've, in hindsight, looking at my life, I've been doing since I was 12 years old. So I created my first website online when I was 12 years old using GeoCities, which was like a platform, I guess, like an old school platform of WordPress, you could call it.
I remember GeoCities, yes.
Yeah, it's very interesting back in the day. So I learned some basic HTML and things like that. But since then, I've created my own business, which is helping people bring together community and attract people to their website using content marketing, called Blogger Sidekick, and that's where I'm delivering my current skills and everything to help people do that. But yeah, as I said, it started a long time ago for me, and I've always had a bit of a passion for the online world and bringing people together with content.
Great. And well, I know that a specialty of yours is, and what we're going to be talking about today is specifically tying content marketing to business goals. Now, I came up through the creative side to content marketing as a copywriter, so I focus on more the creation side. But more and more clients are looking to see the connection to real business results. So let me start by asking you in the big picture of where marketers are in terms of tying content marketing to those business goals. How are we doing, and how many of us are getting it, and how many of us aren't even there yet?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think I come from a similar place as you, Rachel, in terms that I was just a writer, I was a blogger, and that's how I made my name for myself initially. And then I had these clients, looking they would come and they're used to the dollar in, dollar out type of marketing, like the Google AdWords type of marketing, or, anything in that frame. And they expect to see a very similar, return on investment from content marketing, which is much harder to determine. And when you're trying to articulate to someone the value of your service, or what they're doing online in terms of marketing, it's very hard to draw that direct line.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what forced me to start thinking about how to measure things and how to articulate that a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess to answer your question, I don't think there's many people that have come to grips with this. I speak to, even speaking to content marketing experts around the world, and people that have been doing this for a long time and they're very, very good at doing it. There's still so many, I guess, unmeasurable things about content marketing which make it hard to measure. I think there was one statistic in the Content Marketing Institute B2B study. I think, I'm not sure the exact name of it, but they found it found that 30% of marketers consider themselves effective at content marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that somewhere near 70% of people that are doing content marketing don't necessarily see it as effective, which is a huge gap. And in my experience, it's because they haven't really defined what effective is.
Right.
So they start content marketing thinking, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to have a blog, and we need to have a social media set up, and we need to do email marketing and all of these different things. But they haven't really defined what effective is. So they start doing it, and then whatever the expectations they had in their mind prior to starting, they don't meet those expectations, and therefore they don't think they've been effective.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's so important initially, is to get some sort of definition down on paper, like a goal or a purpose of some description, which defines what effective looks like for your unique situation. So therefore you can look back on that and have a better understanding of whether or not it's going in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great advice, setting a goal at the outset. So what would you say to a client who said, well, gosh, well, we're starting our blog from square one. We don't know what to expect in terms of traffic. We don't even know where to set those goals. How do they even do you throw a dart at a dartboard, or how do you do that if you're just starting out?
Yeah, that's a hard one, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have any experience of how much traffic or how many shares you're expected to get, all of that kind of stuff, it's quite hard to set goals. I think if you're looking at it retrospectively, you can set better goals as you move forward.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in the beginning, you just need to have you need to think about what really matters to your business. If it's a business you're trying to drive traffic to online with content marketing, or if it's for a different purpose, what really matters to you and the group of people that you're trying to help, or you're trying to the objectives you're trying to progress as a business or an individual.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I think, starting with what is most important and saying, okay, this is the thing that we're pursuing, and these are the activities we believe will help us get towards that goal, is probably a good place to start. I mean, obviously, over time, once you have a better understanding of what's working and what metrics actually contribute to that greater goal, you can be more specific and start to have a quantifiable goal. But I guess in the very beginning, that is quite hard. You could seek advice, I guess, from someone that has done it before and started from scratch. That may be a good place to start, so you can get some expectations on what you may be able to achieve. Do you have any further advice on that, or?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Well, I think I think the important thing is the goal itself, and not so much the specifics. So, set a number, and if you if you surpass it by 2,000%, then okay, we that gives us a baseline, and then alternatively, if you hit maybe 5% of that, and then just kind of adjust as you go along, and as you said, kind of learn as you go.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one thing I've learned, is just regularly iterating and regularly, keeping yourself on track is important, because goals, whilst they're helpful and they're important because they set you on a path, they are naturally going to change over time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one thing that we talked about when we chatted before this interview is that when it comes to content marketing, um, some of it, some of it is definitely measurable, and then there are some intangibles that are important but just cannot be measured. So what kind of things can we measure? What can we wrap our arms around and look at and say, okay, this is giving us an indicator as to how successful our content marketing is?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things that you can measure, but many of them, I believe, are not hugely important. Some of them,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, are what are called vanity metrics.
Mm.
So when I say vanity metrics, you can look at certain things like social shares and
Yeah.
you know, other metrics such as that, and say, oh, this is great. It looks like we're doing a good job, but does that actually help contribute to your greater goals or not?
Right.
I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it really does depend on what those goals are and what your objectives are.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to look at I guess the hard metrics side of things as a bit of a pyramid. So at the very top of that pyramid, you have whatever that overall goal is. So whether that's business growth or lead generation or whatever that overall kind of objective is for your business. And then at the bottom of the pyramid is all of those other smaller, I guess, vanity metrics that may contribute to that greater goal in some way. So things such as social shares and website traffic and email open rates and engagement and things like that. Um, it is easy to get overwhelmed and look at
Yeah.
every single metric possible.
Mm-hmm.
But as you said, I think simplifying it is probably the most important thing, especially when you're first starting out.
Yeah.
Simplifying it and just picking those few metrics that you believe are most important and
Mm-hmm.
actually do contribute to your goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, did you want me to talk about the intangible side of things as well, or?
Yeah, give us an idea the other ways that content marketing can benefit us that can't necessarily be measured in numbers.
Yeah, so I mean, you have all of those metric side of things, and I think that's people are always seeking those hard metrics because that's the way marketing's been done
Mm-hmm.
for a long time now, and it also it's easy to understand if you put $1 into marketing and you get X amount back through a customer, then that's very easy to understand. But
Mm-hmm.
the real intangible benefit of content marketing, I believe, is actually more powerful than those short-term metrics.
Mm-hmm.
And it's things like brand authority and
Mm-hmm.
brand recognition and
Yeah.
personal branding and those aspects,
Mm-hmm.
and something which I call referral influence.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give this as an example. For example, me being on your podcast today,
Mm-hmm.
um, that would give, I guess, me some referral influence from you because you
Mm-hmm.
have invited me onto your podcast and I'm now speaking in front of your audience.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I build trust with your audience in some respect by being on this podcast. That's an example of referral influence. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these things are very intangible and hard to measure.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if I was to come to your website and you had 1,000 social shares on one of your blog posts, um, knowing social shares, I mean, that could be a lot of people that haven't read the article, or
Mm-hmm.
they had never planned on doing business with you, or there's a number of different other people that would make up that 1,000 that shared that article.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but by seeing that number there, so there's something subconsciously which tells me this person is doing it well.
Yeah.
They're trustworthy. There's credibility. Other people
Mm-hmm.
believe there is credibility there. So
Right.
it's very very hard to tangibly track
Right.
those little things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny you say that, Will, because sometimes people will contact me about my services, and they'll say, they'll kind of laugh. They'll say, "Oh, I've been stalking you," and I kind of like, "What do you mean by that?" And they say, "Oh, well, I've been following your social media posts and your videos and your podcast. I've been following you for years,"
Mm.
and that's great to hear. But at the same time, I wouldn't. It doesn't come down to, oh, I saw this tweet and that made me pick up the phone and call
Yeah.
you. It's that cumulative effect of content marketing that helps us build that authority that you were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had the same experience. Some clients have been, on an email list for 6, 12, 18 months before they've even, reached out in any type of way. So it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just shows that how important consistency is, and
Yes.
doing it regularly for over a period of time. Because if you start today and you don't hear from anyone in 12 months, it's going to be very hard to
Mm-hmm.
maintain that, right? Because you're not getting any feedback. But
Yeah.
if you do that consistently for long enough, then
Mm-hmm.
those things will start, because you've been doing it for a long time. Those things will be more regular because people would have been in and around what you're doing for a lot longer.
Mhm, mhm. Yep, absolutely. So Will, I was just rereading your blog post, which is an excellent post called "The Definitive Guide on Creating a Content Strategy for Your Business," and I noticed that you begin with kind of a shocking assertion that, and I quote, "Your plan really doesn't matter that much." So what do you mean by that, and why is that? And later on in the article, you say, "Well, that's only half the story." So tell us a little bit what you meant by that.
Yeah, sure. So I guess the the plan is important in some respect, but it's really not. Um, it's not as important as the execution.
Mm.
So some people will plan and plan and plan and plan, and never go about executing, and then other
Right.
people will start executing without a plan, and it's kind of like throwing a whole bunch of stuff at a wall and seeing what
Mm.
sticks.
Mhm.
I'm not a fan of either approach, of course, but if you were going to do one of those two, I think executing alone would be a better
Yeah.
approach.
Mhm.
But if you can have a basic plan initially, a basic strategy, and start executing, and then change that plan and
Yeah.
iterate over time as you get better at understanding what's working and what's not working.
Mhm.
That seems to be a better way to fine tune, the results you're getting, because it's going to be unique in every industry and
Yeah.
for every individual, how you actually see what works and what doesn't. And I think I mean, a plan is important to get you on the right track, but really it's just um, I guess, a guiding light in some respect from that beginning.
Mhm.
It's always going to change over time. I mean, even for someone that's been doing this for a long time,
Mhm.
if they were to start on a very new business and try to construct a strategy around that, it's probably not going to stay like that forever. But
Mhm.
you need to give it long enough to see if it will work. So
Mhm.
the problem with if you come up with a new strategy every month, or
Right.
even if it's every quarter, it's not giving it enough time to really see if it's working. So
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
not sure if that answered your question, but
Yeah. 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 It's kind of like what we're saying about goals. The important part is having the plan and then being able to adjust as you go along.
hmm. Yeah, I guess the point I was making in that article about the plan's not that important is this: like, anyone can come up with a plan. There's so
Sure.
much free information on the internet about content marketing.
Mhm.
Some of it's good, some of it's not so good, but anyone can work through that and come up with some sort of strategy.
Mhm.
But the thing that differentiates the people that get great results and the people that perhaps dwindle and then give up is those ones that can come up with that plan and actually stick to it and execute consistently over a
Mhm.
period of time.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of the phrase analysis paralysis. It's like some people get so obsessed with getting that plan absolutely perfect that they just never
Mm.
do anything.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I think we're all probably guilty of that in
Sure.
many aspects, but yeah.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah. Well. Speaking of plans and execution, I will say that sometimes when people ask me about helping them build a plan or build a strategy, they want to go straight to the details. They're saying, how often should we blog, and should we be on Pinterest, and how long should our e-newsletter be, and things like that. But what you recommend, and what I recommend as well, you recommend approaching a strategy by focusing first on purpose, goals, and measurement. So how can brands wrap their heads around these big picture questions, especially if they're just starting out with content marketing?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I guess we've spoken a lot about measurements and
Hmm.
goals and that type of thing already. and I think it's really about understanding what's important to you or your business. So whether you're a one-man show or a one-woman show, or you've got a team of 20 or 30 people, or you're even bigger than that, you really just need to define what is really most important to you and your business and the goals you're trying to achieve. So literally, I mean, if it was me, it doesn't need to be complicated.
Yeah.
Like sit down in a room with the most important people, or the most influential people within your business, and just discuss what really matters, what you're trying to pursue as a business. And I'm sure most people would have already done this in some respect. Everyone has an idea, even if it's subconsciously, what their vision or what their goal is that they're pursuing, and literally sit down and try to come up with a common understanding within the group of what is really most important, and put that into, even if it's just one sentence, a digestible format, which gives everyone a bit of a guiding light.
Sure.
I think that is the most important thing, because content marketing is a great way to market your business in many aspects. But if your goal is totally misaligned with the activity you're doing from a content marketing perspective, then like if your greater business goals are misaligned to that, then it's not an effective way to go about it.
Right. And I think that's true. Well, it's so important to get that purpose down, because I think sometimes teams will launch into content marketing with kind of a tacit understanding, like thinking that they're all on the same page. But then, as you go week after week, month after month, you can see things kind of starting to meander, and, they don't really know what they're doing, and readers don't really know what to expect for them. And that's a good way to get off track.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you hinted at, I think it's really more about that common understanding between everyone that is actually doing the work. Getting everyone to try and go in a similar direction is so important. Otherwise, it's very easy to go off track at certain aspects of it.
Yep, absolutely. So I think sometimes we've talked a little bit about teams, about how groups of people in certain organizations of a certain size approach content marketing. But I think I think sometimes small business owners and especially solopreneurs can feel overwhelmed when they hear about, you've got to look at the analytics and you've got to tie it to business results. So what advice would you give to, say, a small business owner who's looking at making this additional layer part of their routine, and really getting the most out of making that link to business goals without taking up a huge amount of time?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, because I mean, anyone that runs a small business appreciates how time-consuming content marketing is, and adding something additional like metrics tracking is another thing again. And it can be quite overwhelming, and it's often the reason that many content strategies, I guess, go off the rails or don't continue along the right path. And I think a theme that seems to be coming through as I'm just thinking about it is just trying to keep things as simple as possible.
Yeah.
So not trying to overwhelm yourself with every metric under the sun, but keeping things as simple as possible. And one thing I do with a new client when we start working together and we're putting together the strategy and everything is just come up with a simple dashboard. And a dashboard might sound complex, but literally it's just a Google sheet, so a spreadsheet which has their overall purpose or their overall goal, or overarching business goal or content marketing goal at the top of the spreadsheet, and then a list of metrics that we have agreed on that we believe contributes and adds up to achieve that goal. So all of the things we've spoken about, such as traffic and engagement and leads and all of those things, will probably make it into that spreadsheet. And then so you do a little bit of work at the very beginning. So you create this spreadsheet and you put in these metrics and you put in the goal there. And then you create a baseline. So you go to all of those metrics and you say, okay, this is the current state of play. So these are the engagement rates we're getting. These are the shares we're getting. These are the traffic we're getting, et cetera, et cetera. That may be zero at the time you do it, or you may have some sort of baseline to work from. And then you literally can just leave that sitting there in a shared folder where people can access it and look at it. And I believe that you don't have to update that any more than every quarter.
Mm.
So, I mean, there's a tendency to try and go and update every month or something like that to try and see what's going on and how effective everything is. But in my experience, a month is often, especially at the beginning, there's not enough change within a month to really get a good understanding of whether or not something's working.
Mm-hmm.
And there's actually quite a lot of seasonality in content marketing as well. So
Mm-hmm.
some months of the year will be better performing than others. So if you look at a month, for example, if you're an e-commerce store and you looked at November or December against October or June, then it's going to be disproportionate just because more people are likely to buy towards the end of the year with Christmas and things like that. So that's one example of where you could have your metrics might not tell the right story. So you're really looking to keep it simple. You just have this one place where you have these simple, the most important metrics that you're trying to track, and then just go in there and put it into your calendar once a quarter to sit down. It only takes probably about half an hour of your time to sit down and update those metrics.
Yeah.
And then just, I guess, over time, really trying to draw some trends and see where you can improve and update your strategy.
Exactly. So when I work with a client who is, especially one who's brand new to content marketing, one of the questions I hear all the time is, how long is this going to take? As in, how long do I have to keep doing this before it starts producing results? And yeah, exactly. If you're starting a brand new website or a brand new blog, it does take time and consistent effort to build up an audience. So in your experience, how long, what can people expect if they're just getting into content marketing, and if they understand that patience is required at the beginning, how long are they looking at before they might, if they do everything according to best practices, how long might it be before they start seeing results?
Yeah, it's a funny one because a lot of people ask that question, right? And it really does depend on a couple of things. It depends on what results you're looking to get, and what that means to you. But also, it depends on what your expectations are. So some people, and that's why it's so important up front to set those goals and set your expectations so you know what you're looking for. Otherwise, some people might get a couple of months in and they've got, all these email subscribers and there's traffic and they're really excited with that. And then someone with a different perspective might get those exact same results. But they're really underwhelmed by that because they had different expectations in their mind about what to achieve. So that's why it's important to actually document what your expectations and the results you're looking for are. But if for example, you're just looking for a brand exposure and things like that, then results are something which can come fairly quickly. So in my experience, you can get significantly more traffic than you're currently getting if you produce good content and promote it effectively, within 1 to 3 months. But if you're looking for things like, SEO rankings or, consistent, sustainable lead flow and things like that, realistically, you're looking at 6 to 9 months if you do it very well, I think, to start to see some good results from that. And I think you've got to remember that the difference between, traditional internet marketing tactics like Google AdWords or banner ads and things like that compared to content marketing is that you're creating assets that they're actually accruing value over time, rather than, so you're not paying $1 here and getting $1.50 back. You're actually creating an asset which it might feel like a lot of work up front, but in 6, 9, 12, 18 months time, it could still be delivering traffic and leads to your business, which is that long-term view that a lot of people lose sight of, I think, if they don't see the overnight results.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you had a similar experience in terms of how long it takes to get results? Or
Yeah, I have, and it also, well, when we're talking about results, we also need to look at quality versus quantity, because as you mentioned, you may come across someone's blog page and see a certain number of shares. Well, there's no guarantee that those are people within their target audience, or people who even are someone they'd be interested in talking to. So, something I like to stress to clients is like, you may not see thousands and thousands of visits, but, if you only got 100 visits and five of them were from potential customers, would that be successful? And they say, well, yes, of course. Um,
Mm.
so I think when we look at the numbers and we need to look at what's available to us, but also to keep in mind, are we reaching the people that we want to reach, and are we connecting with them and building thought leadership in that specific audience?
Yeah, definitely. It's certainly a good a good way to look at it. That
Hmm.
quality versus quantity aspect. I think
Hmm.
it's easy to get, as I said earlier, it's easy to get caught up in those vanity metrics,
Yeah.
especially if you're new to content marketing. Seeing traffic come in and seeing shares and seeing email subscribers and everything it can be quite exhilarating, I guess, in a way,
Hmm.
in some way. But it's yeah, once you take a step back and look at it from the perspective of your goals and your business outcomes, it can take a different frame.
Yeah. Yeah. I once had spoke to someone whose business was very active on social media, and they were positively addicted to sharing inspirational quotes. It's like that's
Mm,
all they did, and they said, "Well, we get so many likes on them, so we're going
mm.
to keep doing that." And it's like that's great, but it's not doing anything to promote your brand.
Yeah, yeah, that's right, isn't it?
Hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of free content available out there
Yeah.
which teaches people how to get likes or how to get shares or
Yeah.
how to get traffic. But as you said, I mean, it really does depend on who those people are liking, sharing, and coming to your website are. Because if they're not the right type of people for your business, then it's kind of not no point to it.
Yep, exactly. Well, we are looking at a shiny new year, and with each year, it seems like many more brands jump on the content marketing bandwagon, and it gets more and more challenging to get seen and to get noticed. So, is there anything that we need to be doing differently this year, or focusing more attention on, that will help us stay competitive in this incredibly complex world?
It's certainly getting harder, and as
Hmm.
you said, as more and more industries begin to do this content marketing thing, it becomes a little bit more overwhelming
Yeah.
online.
Hmm.
But I think the principles are still pretty similar to they've always been. If you're consistent,
Yeah.
and when I say consistent, you don't need to write a blog post every day or anything like that. I think it's more about writing quality or producing quality content, whether that's blog posts or videos or slide shares or social media or whatever it is, whatever type of content you're producing for your unique audience.
Hmm.
Um, I think consistency is still very important. If you keep turning up time
Yeah.
after time with quality content, and diligently try to get that in front of the right people,
Hmm.
um, you can't really go wrong with it if
Yeah,
that's
sure.
your basic strategy. Of course, quality to you and your audience and
Hmm.
today may be different to quality 5 years ago or to a different audience.
Hmm.
But if you can get an understanding of what that looks like and what type of content your audience are actually engaging with and finding very useful and then taking action on, and can produce that time and time again. I think that's the one thing that a lot of businesses don't do. I
Yeah.
think they may be doing content marketing, but they're not turning up consistently and they're not doing high quality content all the time. So if you are that business or that person who does keep turning up and keep producing high quality content, then you will
Hmm.
stand out from the crowd.
Hmm. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned quality, well, because that is something that I harp on constantly, because as we're seeing this content marketing universe become more and more crowded, most of that content that's crowding it is mid to low level quality. So
Yeah.
if we are going to stand out, we do need to raise the quality bar and start producing, as I like to say, journalistic and editorial quality content.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on with that, I think.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it's actually a lot of people, look at the saturation of content online as um, it's almost like, oh, I can't do it now because
Hmm.
everyone else is doing it. I won't be able to be seen. But I actually look at it as an opportunity because, as you
Yeah.
said, most of the content being produced is that medium to low, and if you do put in that extra effort to
Hmm.
produce the really high quality content, then you can stand out, and in fact the results will be even better than they may have been before, because more people are searching for content. So
Yep, absolutely. Well, Will, I appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your insights with us. If our audience would like to learn more about linking content to business results, or more about you, where would they go and what would they do?
Yeah, so probably the best place to go is bloggersidekick.com/content strategy.
Okay.
And that's the blog post article that you mentioned earlier in the podcast interview. It's a quite a lengthy article, but it's a summary of the way that I think about developing a content strategy and setting your goals and tracking your metrics and all of that kind of stuff. So that's probably a good place to go. And then once you're on the site, you can, if you feel like it, you can get to know me a little better by looking around.
Yep. And you've got you've also got some terrific downloadable assets on your website as well.
Yeah, for sure. So we have, whenever I get the inspiration, we create some, PDF downloads and spreadsheets and things which are available for free if people give up their email address. You can find you can find 90% of those on the resources page, which is just in the top navigation bar of the website there.
Okay, great. And then also, if people visit your website, they will see your mascot. So can you, and who might that be?
They will. Well, actually, I do have a French bulldog puppy called Frankie, but she's very cute, and that was the inspiration for the logo. But yeah, I just I don't know, it just kind of came to me one day. I think it's pretty hard picking a logo that you can resonate with, but I'm sure that'll probably tell you a little bit about my personality. I'm a dog person, so.
Yep, as am I. Well, Will, thank you again so much for coming on and enlightening us today, and we look forward to having you back again soon.
Thanks, Rachel. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Will. Many thanks again to Will for joining us today. Again, his website is bloggersidekick.com, where you can also find Will's blog as well as many useful resources. He's got checklists, he's got ebooks, he's got really cool downloads that can help you up your blogging game. Now it's time for our content marketing tip of the week. For this week's tip, I'm going to share with you a big change that I'm going to be making to my own blog and invite you to entertain this possibility if you're looking to get different results this year. So lately, I've gotten the feeling that I've been in production mode. I am so busy with my client work that when it comes to my own blog, I feel like I'm just kind of cranking out content week after week, usually at the 11th hour. And, it's not bad content, at least I don't think so, but it's not, it doesn't raise the bar. It's just kind of, it's good enough. And it's rare that I finish up a post and say, wow, I'm really proud to have my name on this. Usually it's, okay, that's done. Check it off the list. It's on to the next thing. So this year, for at least a little while, I'm challenging myself to create more in-depth, thoroughly researched, insightful blog posts, even if that means posting less frequently. So, and I'm breaking one of my own rules here. I frequently tell clients, look, you got to publish once a week or don't even bother. So, but the world is changing, and I'm going to try this and see what happens. So for a while, for the first quarter at least, I'm going to be publishing blog posts twice a month instead of weekly, but those posts are going to be longer. They're going to be meatier. They're going to be more research oriented, and they're going to dive much deeper into these topics. I have no idea how it's going to work out. I'm going to keep an eye on my Google Analytics and my engagement rates. But, like so many things in content marketing, you never know until you try. So if you're not thrilled with the results you've been seeing from your own blog, consider at least the option of raising the bar, even if it means putting the content out there a little less frequently. Okay, campers, that's it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. If you like what you've heard today, please feel free to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play Music or via our RSS feed. And if you really like what you've heard, please leave us a quick review on iTunes. Also, remember that my new book, The Content Marketing Coach, Everything You Need to Get in the Game and Win, is now available in book and Kindle format on Amazon. To learn more about the book and to snag your own copy, visit contentmarketingcoachbook.com. As you know, I always like to leave you with a quote, and today's comes from Conrad Hilton. He once said, quote, "Success seems to be connected with action. Successful people keep moving. They make mistakes, but they don't quit." Unquote. Again, this is Rachel Parker with Resonance Content Marketing. Thank you again for listening, and we will see you again next week. Take care.